let's not sugarcoat this. What's happening right now isn't just another quarterback debate or a small locker room drama. It's a full-blown football scandal shaking the entire NFL to its core. The kind of scandal that turns teammates into enemies, forces owners into sleepless nights and emergency phone calls, and leaves fans questioning if their franchise is being destroyed from the inside out. At the very center of this explosion sits rookie sensation Shedeur Sanders and head coach Kevin Stefanski, locked in a battle that has now erupted into a lawsuit that could forever change the Cleveland Browns and maybe even the NFL itself. Just minutes ago, breaking news confirmed that Sanders has officially filed legal action against his own head coach, accusing him of sabotage, bias, and a deliberate campaign to derail his career before it ever had the chance to take off. Imagine that for a moment, a rookie quarterback still wearing Browns colors, already suing the very man trusted to develop him. An unprecedented move that has fans, analysts, and the entire league in shock, because this isn't just a clash of egos, it's the unraveling of a franchise in real time. The warning signs were there all along, but almost nobody wanted to believe them, and now everything makes sense. Shedeur Sanders, the Browns' most electrifying rookie, the quarterback who lit up training camp with pinpoint throws and undeniable leadership, has been benched again and again, while less talented veterans stumbled through drives that went nowhere. Tyler Huntley couldn't stretch the field, Dylan Gabriel looked shaky and unprepared. Joe Flacco seemed like a statue from another era, yet every single time Sanders touched the ball, the energy shifted, the offense came alive, teammates leaned in, and fans finally saw hope only for him to be yanked from the field with some vague excuse about injuries or strategic decisions. Strategic for who? Because it's crystal clear now, those weren't coaching decisions, those were calculated moves to bury a rising star before he could prove the system wrong. And with the lawsuit on the table, the accusations are staggering. Limited reps, restricted playbooks, negative whispers planted in the media, and endorsement sabotage before they could even launch. This wasn't mismanagement, this was malice, and the Browns locker room is starting to fracture under the weight of a truth that can no longer be hidden. Inside the Browns building, the fallout is turning nuclear, and the cracks are no longer whispers, they're earthquakes. Owner Jimmy Haslam, a man who has stood through decades of disappointment, is said to be livid, not just at the lawsuit itself, but at the stupidity of letting it get this far when it all could have been avoided if the staff had simply trusted the talent they had in front of them. General Manager Andrew Berry now finds himself trapped in a nightmare balancing act, torn between loyalty to a coach whose credibility is collapsing and a rookie quarterback who might already hold the keys to the franchise's future. Coordinators are splitting into factions, some quietly backing Sanders, others stubbornly clinging to Stefanski, as if protecting him will somehow protect their own jobs. Players are beginning to choose sides in the locker room, and morale is sinking like quicksand because sabotage never stays a secret. It always leaks out, and once one player dares to take the bold step of filing papers, standing up and saying, "This is not okay," it sparks others to speak too. That's why this lawsuit isn't just about Sanders anymore, it's about a culture of fear and control. It's about every rookie who's ever been silenced, benched, or buried by a coach, protecting his pride instead of his players. And if Sanders wins, this doesn't just reshape Cleveland, it could rewrite the entire rulebook of the NFL. Now, here's where things get even more surreal, because this lawsuit isn't some baseless rant thrown together in frustration. It's detailed, it's calculated, and it's backed with receipts that make even seasoned analysts shake their heads. The filings allege that during training camp and preseason, Sanders was deliberately stripped of protection schemes, forced to stand behind backup offensive lines without extra blockers, leaving him to take unnecessary punishment just so coaches could point to the tape and claim he wasn't ready. That isn't coaching, that's sabotage in its rawest form. And it didn't stop there, according to reports. He wasn't even given the same playbook packages as the other quarterbacks. Think about that for a moment. A rookie expected to compete without access to the same tools, handicapped before he ever had the chance to prove himself. That's not evaluation, that's manipulation, and it paints a damning picture of a staff more interested in guarding fragile egos than building a future. Because if this were really about football, Sanders would have been QB1 weeks ago. If this were about merit, he would have been under center, but instead it's become about power, about politics, about coaches clinging to their reputations while burying the one player who could actually change the course of the franchise. Outside the locker room, the fire is spreading even faster because fans and former players aren't just angry, they're outright rebelling against the franchise. Social media has become a war zone, with number Free Shedeur trending at the top of Twitter, Browns Reddit overflowing with rage, and local radio callers blasting Stefanski as if he's personally betrayed the entire city of Cleveland. Former stars are piling on too. TJ Houshmandzadeh labeled it coaching cowardice. Aqib Talib flat out said Stefanski shouldn't coach another snap in the NFL, and anonymous scouts have quietly admitted the same thing. Sanders was set up to fail. The public isn't just siding with the rookie, they're rallying behind him with fury. Because this is a fan base that has suffered through 2 decades of broken promises and a revolving door of quarterbacks. And finally, when they were handed a genuine talent with pedigree, leadership, and spark, the coaching staff buried him under excuses. You can feel the betrayal pouring out of every post, every chant, every headline, and what makes it worse is that the Browns fan base isn't wrong this time. They've seen 32 quarterbacks come and go in 20 years. They've lived through draft busts and false dawns. And now that hope has been sabotaged from within, they're not just disappointed, they're furious, and they're calling for blood. Kevin Stefanski's job isn't just on the line, it's dangling by a single thread. And every hour that passes feels like it could be his last as head coach of the Cleveland Browns. This morning, insiders whispered that his seat was safe. But within minutes, those whispers shifted to a chilling no comment. And when NFL executives refuse to give a straight answer, you know the walls are collapsing fast. Emergency meetings are being held behind closed doors, lawyers are being mobilized, and crisis managers are circling like vultures because the Browns aren't just dealing with a football problem, they're dealing with a legal bomb that threatens the credibility of the entire franchise. If Stefanski survives this week, it will be nothing short of a miracle. Because never before in modern NFL history has a head coach been simultaneously coaching a team while being sued by his own quarterback, and that contradiction alone is unsustainable. The organization is at a crossroads: bury the story with a quiet settlement, gamble on trading away Sanders, or do the unthinkable. Cut Stefanski loose, admit the failure, and hand the future to the rookie they tried to suppress. Every decision now carries consequences that go far beyond wins and losses, and the next move could define the Browns for a generation. What makes this saga truly terrifying for the league is that if Shedeur Sanders wins, it doesn't just shake up Cleveland, it rips open a brand new era of accountability across the NFL. Imagine a future where coaching decisions, benchings, reduced reps, whispered narratives aren't just shrugged off as strategy, but dragged into courtrooms as evidence of sabotage. Picture contracts, endorsements, and market value being directly tied to whether a player was given a fair chance to succeed, with coaches facing legal fire for burying talent. This isn't some far-off hypothetical, it's happening right now in Cleveland, and executives across the league are sweating bullets because they know if Sanders proves his case, every rookie who ever felt misused suddenly has a playbook for legal recourse. The NFL thrives on protecting its image, but nothing shatters image faster than the idea that teams are intentionally destroying careers to protect fragile hierarchies. For the Browns, that spotlight is a nightmare, because while they've tried to control the narrative by calling Sanders not ready or overhyped, the lawsuit reframes everything. It's not about talent, it's about calculated obstruction. And if courts agree, the ripple effect will change the power balance forever, shifting it away from the sidelines and into the hands of the players. Cleveland fans have reached their breaking point, and this time it feels different, because the anger isn't just about another loss or another wasted season, it's about betrayal from within, and the outrage is spreading like wildfire across the country. Sanders jerseys are outselling veterans, fan forums are exploding with calls for Stefanski's immediate firing, and protests are reportedly being organized outside the Browns' practice facility, a visual reminder that this scandal isn't going to fade quietly. Even loyal radio hosts who once defended the franchise are now torching the staff on air, admitting the obvious that you can't bury a quarterback this talented and expect the city to stay silent. Meanwhile, the national media has latched on, turning Cleveland into the center of every sports headline, with commentators blasting Stefanski for destroying the one bright spot the Browns had in years. Former players are jumping in too, labeling this not just mismanagement, but sabotage, and their voices carry weight with a fan base that has been burned too many times to be patient again. And the worst part for the Browns? Other NFL teams are circling like sharks, with whispers of trade interest from franchises desperate for a young, marketable star. If Cleveland doesn't fix this immediately, they won't just lose the trust of their fans, they'll lose Sanders himself. And once he's gone, the Browns will be left with nothing but regret and receipts. Now, picture the worst-case scenario, the one that keeps Jimmy Haslam up at night. Shedeur Sanders walks out of Cleveland and straight into the arms of a franchise that actually believes in him. And within months, he's a star on the national stage, while the Browns are left in ruins. Imagine Sanders suiting up in New York, dropping a primetime masterpiece by week 6, ESPN rolling out a From Lawsuit to Legend special, and fans across the league wondering how the Browns ever let it happen. We've seen this story before. Drew Brees, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith quarterbacks written off, suppressed, or pushed aside, only to explode once they found a team that gave them a real shot. The whispers are already out there. The Giants, the Falcons, even the Broncos are sniffing around, and they won't hesitate to pounce if Cleveland keeps fumbling the situation. And here's the brutal truth. If Sanders leaves, he'll rise, because his talent is undeniable. And when he does, the Browns won't just look incompetent, they'll be branded as the franchise that sabotaged its own savior. Meanwhile, the fans who've endured decades of heartbreak will be left holding nothing but bitterness, forced to watch the player who should have been their future become someone else's legend. That's the kind of mistake you don't recover from. Not in a year, not in a decade, maybe not ever. So here we are, Cleveland standing at the edge of history with the entire NFL watching, because this is no longer just about a lawsuit or a quarterback controversy. This is about whether the Browns finally stop being the franchise that fumbles every blessing they're handed. Shedeur Sanders wasn't the problem. He was the solution, the future, the spark this team has prayed for through decades of false starts and broken promises. Yet instead of building around him, the coaching staff buried him in politics and sabotage. Now the clock is ticking louder than ever, and the choices are brutal but clear-cut Stefanski. Loose, publicly back Sanders, rebuild trust with a fan base that refuses to be lied to again, or double down on dysfunction and watch the franchise implode from within. Because here's the truth no spin doctor can erase. If Sanders walks, he will rise. And when he does, Cleveland won't just regret it, they'll become the cautionary tale of how ego destroyed greatness. The NFL is changing before our eyes, players are finding their power, and this lawsuit may be the line in the sand that redefines accountability forever. The question is simple: will the Browns evolve, or will they collapse into the same old punchline they've been for generations? The answer is coming fast, and the world is waiting.